This is a really nice flower, this one, and it's one of the lithrums. This one, particular one, is called Lithrum virgatum, drop more purple, and it's a real good doer actually. And even now there are bees floating around it, so obviously good for pollinators. And it's about, I'd say that's about 3.5, maybe 4 foot now, and that's a really nice plant. And then we go to another Lithrum, and this one's called Lithrum phaeocurta, and it let me down earlier in the year because it kind of sparsely flowered and then suddenly stopped, and I thought that was it. But over the last 4 weeks it's doing its flowering again and has excelled actually. It's usually a bit taller than this, but I've got it under a tree, and I usually like to have these exposed because they do like a little bit more moisture to the feet, and it's not really got that. Not in that particular position anyway. Now this is a really, really nice plant, and I think it's my favourite cow parsley type plant. And this one's called Solanum wallichianum, and it has a lovely flower head, and hopefully this one will seed around because they're not cheap plants. In fact, I paid £12.50 for this one, and I consider that quite pricey, but all plants have gone up in price, so that's why it pays you to collect seed and grow your own. But this one has a really nice stalk to it. It has a kind of pinky purple stalk, and overall it has a really nice look. Now unfortunately I put it in the wrong place. It's sat next to that eupatorium and it's a little bit too close to it, so next year I shall address that and move it. Hopefully I'll be able to get more of those plants from the seeds. I'll collect the seeds and I shall grow lots more of it, because as I said, it's definitely my favourite cow parsley, and it has that kind of domed head on it, which is really nice. It's just a real good doer. That almost looks like cauliflower actually, that. I bet it doesn't taste as good though. So yeah, that's really nice. So we're at the end of August now, and things are looking pretty good actually still. This is Rudbeckia deemii, and every year I show this one because 1 minute it's not there and then the next it's just full of flower. Doesn't get very tall. That one's about 2 foot. Most people will be used to Rudbeckia goldstrum, and that is a variety of this deemii. Now these people don't realise, but these ones will grow in moisture, so they live in a more damper area. So not always do they like dry conditions like people believe they do. This one don't get a lot of attention, but this one's really nice. It's Andropogon goreddii, and it's a tall upright grass, as you can see here, and it's only in its 2nd year now, but it's doing really well. Hylotelephaeums is really starting to come into play now. Some people call them ice plants. They used to be called sedums. The name has now changed. No longer sedums. Here's another nice one. I've got several different varieties actually. There's another one. And then I really like this one as well. This is called Mr. Goodbud. I quite like this one. It's quite a nice colour in the leaf and in the flower itself, so that's a really nice one. And I've split that several times, got it going. And then I have another one which isn't here called Munstead Red, which is quite a nice one, but a bit slow really. This is a pennisetum, and it's very short this time. I split it, lifted it, and moved it at the wrong time of the year, so it's usually about twice the height of that in flower, and that one's about 2 foot. It's usually about 4 foot, but it's looking really nice, and I don't mind it being that short actually. It's got an overall nice look. This plant's got a really nice form and shape, and it has, you can't really see at the moment, but it usually has little purple flowers within it, and I don't think it's going to flower this year. The little purple flowers tend to come in here down the stem, and this is called Phlomis italica, but it's a really nice form. So last year I left that alone and left it to its own devices, but this year early on I clipped it back down, and it's got this altogether better shape and form in my opinion. That's really nice though. Now there's another Lythrum here which we'll show you, and this is a Lythrum speciosum, I think it is. I'll put the name on the screen, and it's very nice actually. A very nice Lythrum indeed, but it's a speciosum or a species type. This Acer is impressing me year on year. I thought I'd cocked it up when I first pruned it, and I did a little bit because I was trying to get some sort of a wacky shape, but because I'd moved it a couple of times, I pruned it according to where I'd put it, so it became a weird shape quite early on. But it's now starting to look really good, and over the last couple of weeks I've been looking at it, but I'm resisting doing any pruning on it yet. And one of the reasons is because it has this wonderful autumn colour that I'm waiting for, and once it does that, I guess I'm going to go in there and do some pruning on it. So we will get the shape of that eventually, and I think I'll probably end up taking out some of these smaller ones because I wanted to leave some big areas exposed, because it's got some quite nice trunks coming out from there and there which are more interesting, and we'll remove some of the smaller bits. So you've got to be careful where you cut it, because what happens once you've cut it, it divides itself. It divides by multiplications, and by that I'm saying, or what I mean is that you cut it and then it shoots off one way, shoots off another way, and then if I cut further up there where those two leaves are, there, those two leaves, if I cut there, it would do it again, send off 2 branches, and it'll continue to do that. So when you kind of prune these things, you've got to bear that in mind. And this is Acer aconitifolium, and it is a real nice one, and the leaves are beautiful on it, but they have a wonderful, and I mean a wonderful, autumn colour. So let's have a wander around. I'm not doing this video on anything in particular, I'm just doing a little walk around really. There's the bamboo, the one that I trimmed the other day. We're looking pretty good down here at the minute. I showed you the pennisetum earlier and said it's very short because I'd moved it at the wrong time, and this is a better example of it. So that's about 4 foot. So all those seed heads are shooting up all over the place, and again this was a split, and that's why it's quite a mature plant now, but it's doing really, really well, even though I split it at the wrong time of the year. I do that. I tend to not really mind when I split them, but you've still got to be careful when you split them. You don't want to do them at the wrong time of the year, because it can cause you more problems than you need. Let's go to this plant. So this is a Pavoschia, and it's a really nice plant actually. The colour is amazing, and it never fails to impress each year, and it has a lovely smell because it is a sage. It's the Russian sage, it's commonly known as, and it has a lovely scent. And I've got one called Silvery Blue further up the garden, which this is not, but it's lovely. Everything's doing well. It's got a bit of wind blowing at the moment, but it's definitely feeling a little bit cooler than it has of late. That Astor Monk is looking brilliant. Look at that display. That's beautiful. Very impressive plant indeed. Border's looking nice. The Japanese anemones at the back, and then the yellow Helianthus Cape Nook star looking good. And that Millennia isn't really at its full height yet. I think there's another foot before it finishes its growth, if not two, depending what type of weather we get. Roses keep going. This is a lovely rose, this one, and it's Rosa Gertrude Jekyll. It gets a lot of airtime on my videos because it is so wonderful, and it's scented, and it's a repeat flowerer. This grass is now coming to the front and starting to show off, and this is Calamagrostis brachytricha, or brachytricha, say it how you wish. And it's a really nice doer, and it can grow in shade, this one. And apparently flower arrangers absolutely love it. This is great. I love this one. This is a Sanguisorba, and it's Sanguisorba Blackthorn. Just such a good doer. So easy, and it doesn't cause any problems at all. It just looks after itself. And here's the Euphorbia cross pasterii. That's doing really, really well. I said maybe it wouldn't survive, it would struggle during winter, and it did. But I had given it the best location I could, and as a result, it's rewarding me with these lovely leaves. Now I'm hoping that'll stay. I'm hoping that this winter won't finish it off. But it is in a good place, so hopefully, touch wood, that'll be fine. But who knows? For a walk down here. I love wandering around the garden at any time of the day, but particularly when the sun starts going down, and especially in this area, because, as you know, when grasses get side-lit, they look wonderful, and that's the Calamagrostis border. And I love this combination of this Euphorbia that's with it. I love the sort of formal shape of that with the upright of the Calamagrostis, and that's a good plant association. In fact, that's an excellent plant association. And then the alliums, they're doing really well. And as I've said, I'm still toying with removing them. But I think what I shall do this year is I shall just go to the bottom of each of the flower stalks, and I'll dig them up, and I'll put them a lot lower in the ground, because I don't think they're actually low enough. The slugs have really gone to town. I lost control of the hostas when we went away for a week. When I got back, we'd had lots and lots of rain, and it was too late. The deed was done, and it's affected a lot of my hostas. So there you go. There's that Euphorbia again next to Deschampsia, and that's Deschampsia Gold Tower. It's fantastic. I have got lots of flowers in this garden. I just prefer to show, well, things that are doing well at the time I'm walking through, and at the moment that's all the grasses that seem to be doing well. This is nice. This is Westacre Purple, and it's a Monarda. So as you know, we did the path at the weekend, and I love it. Absolutely love that path. It is wonderful. Everything suits it, and I'm going to really struggle to know what to move here, because not always does things need moving, but there's one or two plants in here that are just not going to make it long term. Now that Eupatorium, which is Glutball, I've also got further along, so it's not a problem what I'm going to say next. I'm likely to lift this and pot it up, split it into some splits and pot it up, because behind it we've got the lovely elder that I took as a cutting. If you can make that out. It's at the back there, not such a good view, but it's going to take over and dominate. And then the other problem I'm going to have is this bamboo, because this bamboo was set in there to actually act as a windbreak as well. And I'm still playing about with the idea of putting a fence along the top of that wall, just a short fence of about maybe 3-4 foot, just to break the wind. So this is that Eupatorium cannabinum, and it looks fantastic. It's going a real pasty colour now. A very pasty colour, but I really like it at this stage. And from a distance, as the sun drops even further, this looks wonderful. It stands out quite a lot. Oh, look at Amy, she suits that path. He loves it. So this Lithrum's looking really nice. It's a Lithurum species like the one I showed earlier next to the Rudbeckia. And it's only there temporarily, really, because it's not going to make it long term, because it'll be the wrong location for it. What I'm waiting for is this Rosa rugosa to do its thing. Yeah, and this is the orchard border. Now this is another miscanthus called Professor Richard Hanson, and it's a beauty, and it gets a lot taller than it's showing at the minute. And this is a plant that is definitely in the wrong position, really, because other things are doing so well around it. But it's a really nice early grass, and it would be up a bit quicker than it is at the moment, and tall, and those seed heads go well above the main clump eventually. But it's in the wrong area, so it's got to be moved, along with one or two other things. And what I do is I tend to overplant. I've got lots of things in here, and like I say, I tend to overplant. I've got Actaea racemosa here, this one here, and it's not happy here at all. So again, it's got to be moved. So the plant at the back there is a Symphotrichum, and it's called Little Carlo. And it's in the wrong place. Needs moving. It'll do all right there, because believe it or not, that one can take a bit of shade. I would be happy with that. But the bamboo here has got to be sorted out. And I've got to play about with these two bamboos. I got these bamboos at a cheap price, and I did say they will be fine. They were in the sale area, which I usually avoid. Well, I say avoid the sale area. I don't avoid the sale area. I avoid the dead and dying section, which most garden centres have. This was these were on sale and were pretty good. They had one or two dead sections in them. Can we find them? Because I cut a lot of them out. And this is one that I wouldn't bother trimming up, and would act more as a barrier, really, and would make a good edge, actually, that one. And I've got another one over there. So here's the Sambucus. That Sambucus came from a cutting that I did off the main plant, and it's doing really well. I was quite shocked, actually, how well it's doing. And that was this time last year. That was about 4 leaves. It's done so well, and they grow so quickly, which is what I like about them, actually. And there's the mother plant, and that looks wonderful as well. I do like that. And here, what I do from time to time is I bring some of my miscanthus and I put them in an area where they can be better viewed, so we can see this from in the house as well. And this is Miscanthus sinensis. It's one called Red Cloud, and it has that more pendulous look. And it's one that's brilliant for a pot. So if you're looking for one for the pot, that's one for the pot. It does really well. But everything's doing okay. A couple of plants here that have to be moved. This Phalictrum is now going into its autumn colours, a bit early, but it's going into them nevertheless. It will be removed. It's not doing well there because it's in the wrong place. And that was because when we put the floating deck in, we had to have a bit of a shufty. So I moved stuff around the base of that, and I put 1 or 2 plants in the wrong place, and they've already gone. But the Phalictrum remained because it was doing really well. But the elder is doing so well that we need to let that take over. And it's another reason why I put this elder in. Now, that elder there is the same as the one I've just shown you. and that is a fraction of the size, so it's obviously not happy there. The stem's thickening up quite nicely, but I think what I shall do with that is I shall lift it, I shall put it where the phylloxera is most likely, because I want to have a kind of a barrier here, or a hedging look to this side, so when we sat on the floating deck we get a little bit more privacy that we don't need because we're private anyway, but it just gives it another look, and I think that could look quite interesting. So I shall probably, yeah, I think I'll move that where the phylloxera is. The phylloxera will be moved elsewhere in the garden because I've talked about putting it with phylloxera man, so I can see if there is a difference, and I'm sure there is. That Persicaria, that's Blackfield, the one down there with the red flowers, and it's in the wrong place. I've moved it several times and I put it in the wrong place, and again it's when we put the floating deck in, I had so many plants to move out of the way and I had to put them back in quickly because it was still winter. So this one is a lovely Millennia, and this one is a Caerulea type, but it's a subspecies of Rundinacea, and it's called Le Pont de Say, and its only failing is exactly what you're looking at, but at the same time that's its beauty. How it arches there is wonderful. In a border it's a nightmare because it just doesn't look good, so I've put it into Frankenbin and improved its look, and it has made a difference, definitely. And to be honest, it's spoiling the miscanthus to the left of it, but it looks fantastic. So maybe it needs to be put where this little mountain ash is, this Sorba. So maybe I just need to move the pots around, and I think that would make it look so much better. The downside is it will come right across the path here, but people walk past and brush past them anyway, and I don't mind that. But like I say, these flower heads do so well that they're so heavy that they give this splaying effect, but I love it. It's an olive green colour, which is unusual. It's almost a brown actually, if I'm honest, but it goes through a coppery phase as well. So that's a really nice one, but as I say, it's spoiling the effect of that miscanthus, so I think I will move those two pots around. Okay, so I think that's long enough. The garden's looking good. I'm still awaiting all the miscanthus to start flowering. And it won't be long before most of them finally flower, all but the big condensatus types. We'll not go into those. Okay, I'll talk to you on the next one. Ta-da!